Welcome back to Texas as we chainsaw our way through this massacre of a franchise.
Do you want to try that again?
I don't. I think it's A plus plus plus. Welcome to the Bomb Squad. My name is Andrew Hada. I'm the writer director of the film The Empty Space, which is about to be playing at the beginning of next month in June at the Horror Hotel Film Festival in Columbus, Ohio. If you're in Columbus, Ohio, and you want to check out a cool film directed by me, go check it out. Tickets are going to be available soon once they figure out capacity. And I also run this podcast slash YouTube video, so give us a like and a subscribe. And we are talking Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This is a second entry in our Texas Chainsaw Massacre series where we review every single movie of the franchise, a move that I'm clearly already regretting. And
Yeah.
so this is the second one in the franchise, directed by Tobe Hooper. They've brought him back after his first movie was a phenomenon. This movie was released in 1986, and it has, it's gained a cult following. Josh, explain to us the plot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
Leatherface and family terrorize a DJ in Texas.
Yeah, surprisingly, that is the plot.
Yeah.
Also, Dennis Hopper shows up.
It is funny because the description of this movie is starring Dennis Hopper, and I believe he is in it for less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's in it for 10 minutes, and he's in it not yelling for about 5 seconds. So this movie stars Dennis Hopper. It stars Caroline Williams. Bill Moseley, who went on to continue to play horror creatures, plays Chop Top, the twin brother of the Hitcher from the first one. And that's about all. Tom Savini did the effects, which is why they look so amazing. Again,
Yeah, the effects do look good.
they brought Tobe Hooper back.
It seems like a worse version of the first film in most ways.
Well, it's definitely like it kind of has that Gremlins Freddy's Dead feel where it's clearly a
Yeah, and they
sequel,
kind
but
of say it's like,
also
oh, a parody
satire.
satire, but the
Yeah.
first is already kind of satirical of like America, and this just kind of feels like going through the motions a little bit.
Like the first one is satirical of America, like it satirizes the American family unit and
You know, like the meat industry and like
the response to the Vietnam War. Where this one is a satire of the first one. Caroline Williams plays a DJ who
named
she like
Stretch,
gets
DJ
named Stretch.
Stretch.
She gets like caught up in the whole thing trying to help Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper plays a sheriff or a ranger who's actually the uncle of Franklin and Sally from the original, and Sally is in a mental institution. The opening, like, because they do the opening narration thing, and it does feel like a parody of the original. If you just hear the first part,
it is all the more tragic in that they were young. But had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day.
It kind of sets you in the mood to be freaked out already, because it's like, what the fuck is this? Where this one...
Next morning, the one survivor, Sally Hardesty Enright, was picked up on a roadside, blood-caked and screaming murder.
He's reading it so fast that you're like, what the fuck is this?
I'm telling you, rush, like everything feels rushed, like gotta get through it.
So once we find that out, we see these preppy boys and they're driving to
see
Austin.
The two worst teens the movie could manufacture.
Someone had to tell Tobe Hooper, like, find me two teens that you want to murder. And he found them because they're the most annoying people in the world. I will say that opening is such a good opening. Like, I love that opening. It's so well done. Like, these two teens are like, they're driving to Austin to like go to a party. No, to Dallas to go to a party. And they're like shooting mailboxes out of their car. And they're like playing chicken with people. And they keep calling Stretch on the radio. And she's like, what do you want? And they're just being like annoying buttholes. So they like run into the Sawyers. And the Sawyers, like, it's like Leatherface is like covered his body. And he has the Hitcher's dead body. And they're like playing with it. They have like
the radio, because their radio's blasting and he's making the body dance to the music.
Yeah. And they've set up the Hitcher's body so that he can attach himself to the people's arms so they can make him like dance like a puppet. And so they're making him do that, and then the hitcher, like Leatherface starts turning on the chainsaw, so they shoot the head of the hitcher, and it reveals that it's Leatherface. So then Leatherface retaliates by cutting off this guy's brain. So Stretch like hears all of this, and it's on the radio. And then like the next day, the Texas Rangers are like, "Oh, they must have just gotten in a car wreck." And Dennis Hopper's like, "They got chainsawed, their heads are off," and the cop is like, "They got Texas road accident massacred." And I was like, "Man, did they use real cops for this or what?" And then Stretch shows up to like say like, "Oh, I have information about this," and Dennis Hopper immediately doesn't believe her, wants to kick her out.
What is?
Right on here, those kids getting killed. Now, this is evidence, sort of, right?
Time for you to go home.
No, wait a minute, look.
You can't be Mulder and Scully, Dennis Hopper.
He was like, "You're getting in my way. Don't get in my way." It's like, you are looking active. Like you would definitely want to hear this tape. Like, you're obsessed with this case. I don't understand why.
And so then, like Dennis Hopper's like, "Okay, I believe you now. I don't know how this happened, but now I believe you." And so then, okay, here's what we're gonna do: play it on the radio, and this will draw people's attention and let everyone in Texas know that the cops have been covering up these murders, and there's really people being murdered. But what I want to know is, didn't they hear it the first night? Like, weren't they on the air at that point? And I want to point out before we continue that we're going to point these things out as kind of like funny stuff, but the movie's tone 100% like justifies all these things because it's not going for a realistic tone.
Yeah,
Like,
none of this really matters. It's just funny
it's
to
kind
like.
of going for like if you've seen the movie Creep Show, it's kind of going for that kind of tone, like heightened reality, you know, like almost to a cartoonish version, but still scary. But then, so Stretch plays it. She's like hanging out by herself, and then we get a really good introduction of Crop Top, who's played by the amazing Bill Moseley, who does a good job. Like, that first scene is really uncomfortable.
I will say, okay, I don't think he does a bad job, but I don't think he quite hits the same like level of like the hitchhiker from the first one. Like, he's clearly doing that.
Like, yeah, because he starts like intimidating Stretch by like, he's like asking her all these weird questions, but he doesn't say anything overtly intimidating. He's like asking her to play music, and she keeps telling him, like, there's a really creepy ass scene where she's like, "Okay, bye," like, you know, like she's trying to politely tell him to leave, but he just keeps repeating "bye" back to her.
Yeah,
And
it's like it's how he's saying it, just kind of standing there.
Yeah, like, it's like, and it's not even how really he's saying, it's just the fact that it's almost like he knows that she wants him to leave and he's refusing to do it, and she has no, like, there's no follow-up because, you know, normally people get the social cue, but he's not reading the social cue, and it's just so weird and creepy. And then we come to like one of the best scenes.
Hey, what's in here?
Record vault.
Oh, where you keep the golden oldies and maybe the new music.
It was terrifying.
Yeah, no,
What a good introduction for both of those characters.
that was a good intro, and I guess it does show that Leatherface can be super sneaky when he wants to.
Sneaky boy Leatherface is how we call
He is
him.
almost immediately bested after that by a fire extinguisher, which I also appreciated because it shows how like stoppable he would be in most situations. You know.
Yeah, like Leatherface can't get anything thrown in his general direction, or it'll disorient. But also, okay, and like, we can talk about Crop Top a little more. I feel like the thing is that Crop Top is really good when he's kind of being more subdued, but he spends a lot of time like yelling and repeating the same thing, and I feel like he's better when he's being more like that first scene is really creepy and he does a really good job, but after that he kind of goes
he
into
kinda
the Rob
goes
Zombie, like,
full manic.
overhypered. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like I wish that he had done more of the general, like, oh, he's just creepy and he's just kind of like he's toying with you, as opposed to being like, oh, he's kind of annoying and you don't like him. And like Dennis Hopper is following her in his car, and he doesn't let her know until the last second. He's like, "Sorry, I used you as bait.
He just watching like the Billy's like, well, I'll let them die, and then I'll
Yeah.
tail the killer.
The story house is like this weird series of tunnels, which is very cool looking. Good job, Tom Savini. You're amazing.
Yeah,
I don't think it was Tom Savini actually. I think it was the set designer, but still, good job. Um, and she falls in. So then Dennis he like loads up his chainsaws, and then he just starts running at the house. But you could tell that neither the director or Dennis Hopper or the cinematographer or anyone on the crew realized how far away the car was from the house because he's running for such a long time and then he just stops because it's a long run.
oh man,
That was
it's
my
like
favorite
the
scene. And then Stretch like is able to get out and they find her and they take her to dinner again. This is where the dinner scene
yeah, and
happens.
this is where it's like, okay, this is almost the exact because it goes the dinner scene into wheeling out the
The
grandpa
grandpa,
to
whose
trying to
makeup is
help the
much well.
grandpa kill her,
Right.
and it's just like this is almost the same scene shot for shot for like
And I'll say, like, okay, the makeup for the grandpa is way better, but again, I mean, the budget was insanely different. And the other thing
yeah, no,
is,
I mean it is.
like, because Chop Top is just basically the Hitcher, he's the same kind of character, and Leatherface is still Leatherface, but you do see some progression in the cook because in the first one, he famously does not like to see murders, and in this one, like, there's that scene where they still have the grandpa and they're trying to get him to kill the girl and he like lifts the hammer but he'll drop it and then at one point the cook just grabs a hammer and smacks her on the head and he's like, all right, we're done
He's
with
like
this.
done with this. Yeah,
uh, I thought
yeah.
that was a real good scene and it shows that the cook has kind of grown up a little bit and matured into a more hideous monster than he was. So
It's a good
then they're like trying to hit her and then Dennis Hopper shows up and they have a
a
chainsaw fight.
chainsaw duel. Yeah, which
And
again,
yeah, the Hitcher has like a bomb that's been on
it's
his
like a
body
little
the whole time.
grenade. Yeah,
And so they pull it and they blow up the house. But then Stretch has escaped and Chop Top is chasing her. And he's kind of doing what the Hitcher does, where he's like cutting her with a straight razor. So anyway, so then,
starting to think this guy's a bit messed up. Actually,
you know what? I don't like this family.
After two movies, I'm like, hey, something's off about this
Yeah.
family.
I thought this was about award winning cookie. And then fucking Stretch chainsaws to death
Chop Top,
the
she
Chop
kicks
Top.
him off. She chainsaws him off, and he falls. And then she kind of does the thing where she's like spinning around with the chainsaw, like out of
Yeah,
crazy
she
frustration.
does the Leatherface. Who do you think is the scariest person in this one?
Um, See, in this one, I would almost say it's the cook.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. But here's the thing: I think that Leatherface has more scares.
Well, yeah, but it's also like Leatherface has this like psychosexual thing where he's not going to kill the girl, but the cook like forces him to. So it's like he's still controlling
Yeah,
the events.
the cook is much more in charge in this one, and it's like you kind of see that he's grown more sadistic, and I feel like that makes him scarier. Like I said, he's again like it's almost weird because in the first one with the Hitcher, I feel like he's scarier because I'm more like, oh shit, this guy is troubled, you know. Where
Yeah,
in this one, I feel like, oh, the Hitcher, I mean, the cook, it's like, oh no, this guy is just gonna beat you over the head and kill you. Where in this
because
one,
it's
like
also
with
like he
Chop
had to
Top,
like take charge because their cover is like a food truck.
yeah,
I also like that aspect that they're the ones who invented like the Austin hipster food truck culture.
yeah,
Ahead
that's
of
how it began, and that's why the food is so bad. Hire more Mexicans, Austin. Um,
But
they won't feed you
but like
people, and also,
because he had to take charge of the business, he had to like take charge of the family too. That's kind of how I read it, you know.
yeah, I think so. And all I'm saying is that not only do Mexican food trucks not consist of people meat, they also don't charge you $3 for fucking salsa in a breakfast burrito. That should be included, Austin.
Yeah.
God damn. Uh, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the cook as the worst one.
I mean, like I said, the first is obviously like it's unpleasant to watch, but like it has this cultural thing. This is much more like, okay, this is a horror movie. This is what they're all kind of like.
Yeah,
It still delivers in a few ways, but
I almost wish that we had seen a more serious version. Like if Tobe Hooper had said, let me do a very serious version sequel to this movie. And like, because I will say that this movie does not feel like a remake of the original. I mean, it has like the dinner scene, which does, but overall, it does feel like a progression from the original
Yeah,
Chainsaw.
it well, and also like I kind of feel like it's like one it tries to rush the plot a little too much.
Yeah.
But I was reading about it too, just trying to be like, oh, was this movie well received? Generally, no, but the it
I mean,
talks
I don't think any of them were well received by
right,
critics.
and it was banned in like countries for 20 years, but it talks about like a deleted scene of like Leatherface like killing like an entire theater of like movie patrons, and it's like I feel like the movie needed like at least one big spectacle scene like that, you know, to kind
Yeah.
of like it's like because it wasn't really serious enough to just rely on the strength of like the plot of this like DJ and sheriff, but it also like should have gone a little bit bigger if it was gonna be as silly as it was. Like the beginning was the right tone with the two like guys getting killed, but it just kind of it's a little muddled until the end. So
Now, one of the things I really like about this movie is that the original Texas Chainsaw has this like kind of weird manic energy in the filmmaking where, and I feel like it was 100% the budget. And like in the dinner scene, there's like a bunch of cuts. Like it's cutting to her eye, it's cutting to her mouth, it's cutting to like a random uh, light pole made of a person's head. So it's cutting to all these things, and I feel like that makes it really creepy. But in this one, Tobe Hooper really plays with keeping the shots real long, like the
yeah,
camera
it's
movement
really a
real
lot of big
slow.
scenes. Yeah,
Yeah, like the scene where there's like a scene where in the dinner scene where like the camera's just kind of moving along as they like take her from her chair to the grandpa. And to me, like it proves very unnerving a bunch of times. And like the scene with crop top where he's introduced, it takes so long that you're like, oh my god, when Leatherface shows up. And so I don't know if Toby Hooper did this intentionally, like he wanted to prove that he could still make these guys scary without relying on the same manic cutting and like shots, or if he had just kind of grown as a filmmaker and moved away from that kind of filmmaking. But either way, it kind of shows that he could do it both ways, and he didn't like there's always that like, oh well, you won the Sacramento Horror Film Festival, you're clearly number one in all of everyone's eyes in the movie community, do you think you're a one-hit wonder? And I think that this movie kind of proves that Toby Hooper was not. Like he could do it all. But yeah, well, thank you for joining us. If you're in Columbus, Ohio, don't forget to go see The Empty Space in June. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe us on YouTube and whatever podcast you love. All right, well, that was the Bomb Squad. Come join us next week as we continue on to the Armorillo of, of the series with Texas Chainsaw 3. And we'll see you guys next week. Like and subscribe.
the
And
Horizon
Josh,
City.
Texas Chainsaw you later.
Oh.